introduce my good friend, mentor, training partner, advocate over the years, James Mayo, founder of SOS. Thank you for being on today, James. I have been using your products since the beginning. Something I recommend / demand for all of my athletes. It's frequently what I give for holiday gifts, stocking stuffers, welcome packages. Yeah, for athletes, non-athletes, it is essential. So I was excited that you would come on today and do a little kind of fireside roundtable chat with us.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and nice to see some of you live, and obviously to those that are listening in, great to hear from you.
Yeah. So I guess let's start with maybe your background and as an athlete, and then how SOS came to be.
Of course. So my background, I'm a former pro track athlete, used to run half a mile, and I was a Army veteran. I also was national coach of Singapore Athletics, and then worked in sales for many years. And at a winery in Sonoma, we came up with the concept of SOS because we were fed up with the high sugar sports drinks or the various other electrolyte solutions that were out there at that time. My wife, better half, our wife and better half, Blanca, or Dr. Blanca, should I say, grew up in Mexico, started all her medical adventure, and is now a transplant hepatologist. So went through gastroenterology, internal medicine, started in surgery in Mexico, but then had to sort of requalify. Funnily enough, at the Mayo Clinic. So Dr. Mayo at the Mayo, she was using oral rehydration solutions and sports drinks to hydrate people with GI issues. But the problem is that these people with GI issues were getting secondary complications like prediabetes, obesity, and everything else. And yes, sports drinks have 35 grams of sugar, but the oral rehydration solutions still have 11 to 15 grams of sugar. So we wanted to create something that was better for you. My brother was as much as I hate to say it, was a better track athlete than myself. I never lost to him, but in major competitions, he went to the Worlds and things like that. He actually collapsed at the Worlds in South Africa with dehydration. So that was a sort of a collection. And then about a year after I started SOS, I became a pre-diabetic. Now I got out of it by actually taking up triathlons. So hence I love this world that Elizabeth's in and all the fueling team, because Scott and Elizabeth helped me through my first couple of 70.3s. I've never done a full Ironman, to be honest. I personally didn't have the time with 2 little daughters, and my wife working like a crazy lunatic in the medicine piece, but I now do sprint triathlons. Absolutely love them, and that sort of got me out of it, and also managed my diet. So Elizabeth's input, Scott's input in terms of what are you eating, Mayo, or what are you drinking?
What are you drinking?
Yeah, was sort of like, hey, so SOS was something that, I mean, SOS stands for SOS, but in the outside world, save our soul. SOS literally saved me, and it saved thousands and thousands of other people, because we've also realized that fueling and hydration are 2 separate entities, but that's a little bit later. So yeah, a little bit about me. So I'm excited to be here today.
Thank you very much. I think you make it sound like it was just this, smooth, natural, easy. You have worked like a dog for years, and I have been on the front lines watching you. It's not easy to start a business and grow it into what it is today. You have had to, travel, sampling, going. I mean, I think we first met at an indoor cycling class in San Francisco. You were there at 5 a.m, handing us all samples of SOS. So as an entrepreneur, I think that's important. Your commitment there and building SOS and getting the word out, and your passion for keeping people hydrated is how the company got off the ground.
Yeah, and it's funnily enough, it's natural and easy. Well, SOS is natural and easy. It's non-GMO verified with no artificial junk, and even our ready to drink is clear. But yeah, I mean, the joy of an entrepreneur is that it's the heart, and I'm sure some of you are entrepreneurs, and you're all entrepreneurs if you do triathlons or cycling or whatever, because it's your own business of freeing your mind and freeing your soul and just getting out there. And when it's a cold, foggy day in San Francisco, or a boiling hot day in Arizona, or a snowy day in Boston, wherever one shall live, you've got to be motivated and entrepreneurial to get out there and train. So yeah, I think the sports background definitely helped. And it certainly set me up to sort of be where we are. The next piece was, it's just having the balls, no phrase intended, apologies, that you've just got to get on and do it. We had an idea, and maybe, yeah, we'd had a couple of glasses of wine too many. But once you made that decision, I had to commit, and it's a bit like committing to do a triathlon. And once we had that commission, it was right, done. And I've put 150% into it, like everyone does in everything. And yeah, I mean, thank goodness you don't get bruised from all the potholes you fall down as you're learning along the way. Just like when I couldn't cycle a bike when I took up triathlon. And I know Elizabeth was sort of, teasing me at the beginning in terms of, yes, I can run, and I was quite good at that piece. And yes, I could swim. But cycling, I might as well have had a bell and a basket on the front for my first triathlon. So it's something that has been a whole load of fun, and you learn an awful lot about yourself and about everything. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I can speak firsthand and attest to the fact that I'm glad that you stuck with it, and I'm glad that you pushed through, because I couldn't live without my SOS. So thank you for being so committed and persistent and creating such a great product. What does being hydrated mean to you?
Yeah.
When someone says our goal is to hydrate athletes, what does that mean?
Happiness. If you think about it, I suppose, silly question to all of you, who here gets thirsty?
I do.
Don't all shout at once, in which case you're all hydrated, so must be using SOS. No. The fun of the fair is that if you're thirsty, you're already a couple of percent dehydrated. And that's not just, I'm not talking about performance. And I think what I'm trying to educate people with SOS is, yes, there's a performance component of it for, making you run, swim, bike, whatever, faster, play tiddlywinks if that's your passion. But really there's the cognitive angle. And we've recently had a peer-reviewed study out, and actually if you look on the SOS website, go to research, you can pull down, we've got independent rather than the SOS Sports Science Institute, we've sent SOS out to be tested. And that's the fun piece about it, having a real physician, and a real physician who's in GI, who really focuses on electrolytes for treatment. It's not some marketing BS and spin that lots of other companies have, or that they've copied the WHO formula to a T and just rebranded it and called it different things. We physically went and formulated something that's different. It's got, a third of the sugar of an ORS. It's still got the same molecular balance of sugar to sodium. It's got added vitamins and minerals. We've got a ready to drink, we've got a powder form. But the whole ethos we're trying to promote is pre-hydrate, because it's too late if you stand on that start line dehydrated. So if you start your day hydrated, you're not going to feel the afternoon sort of lull, the mid-morning thing. You can have your double mocha frappuccino. You can feel good about yourself because you're hydrated. It's not energy, it's not sugar. It's not like taking, one of the big sugar sort of packets that has wind at the end of it that gives you an energy rush and all that sort of stuff. That's not that. We're not fuel. We're not that. And that's a perfect option for fueling. We're not going to give you those highs like caffeine or sugar. But what we do is we give you this feeling of calm almost, and the fact of comfort. And you know that you're absorbing the water, because if you stop using it after a couple of days, you definitely feel bad. And a couple of excerpts is, I can smash a bottle of SOS in a transition in a minute. I can smash that down, there's no bragging, but I can smash that and get that straight out and run and not have any GI issues. That's pretty cool. And if I take it before I start a run, I also know that, or run or bike or swim or wherever I am, I also feel I'm good. And plus the packets are tiny. So, that's less than a credit card size because it doesn't have all that sugar. Yes, take your sugar elsewhere. And I have mix it between the two, and I can go into that later. But the whole purpose of hydration is it's your essential. Water is your life's essential. It's more than 60% of your body. Yes, we realize that. But water needs a magical beast, and that magical beast is electrolytes, and those electrolytes make you happy. So coming back to my first phrase, what does hydration do? Happiness.
Oh, that's perfect. We should make a bumper sticker. I'd wear that around and share that with people. I think that's the component too that a lot of athletes miss, is they think it's strictly performance related or strictly something they do after training or maybe on a longer session. They don't take the time to understand that there's so much more related to hydration. It's the cognition piece. It's how they feel going into the session. It's their motivation to continue to train. It's, how their muscles feel going into, going out of, and that daily, especially for triathletes who train 2, sometimes 3 sessions a day, you're asking so much of your body. And if you're not pre and during and post hydrating, you're not going to be ready for that next session.
Yeah, absolutely true. And it's and our flavor isn't sugar syrupy sweet. I'm quite happy to say that, but it's also not what you want all the time, because you've got your sugar syrupy sweets with your coffee, your fuel, or whatever. And to be really honest, the last thing you want at the end of even a sprint triathlon, but especially a 70.3 or a full, is you have fat mouth anyway, and your tongue's like this, and you're trying to talk and clear, and you're trying to chuck that goo down your neck, or I use Cliff Bar, but you're trying to chuck that down your neck, and something like an SOS that's a bit saltier works, but it works better than, say, taking a salt tablet or a fizzy tablet that goes into your drink, because the salt tablet needs to dissolve the tablet. It needs to get into your gut first, and then your gut needs to break down the tablet, and then the tablet needs to find some sugar, and then the sugar and the salt together need to find the way into your cells. So that's a 30-40 hour process of it sort of going, and plus your gut wants to do other things, mainly reg. So you want to sort of keep going. The same with the tablets. If you think that you're chucking a tablet in, the tablet's fizzy. I mean, I think it's funny, I can just about still run a mile quicker than a tablet can to dissolve. But if that tablet's fizzing in your bottle, what's it doing in your gut? And then, you want to, basically your whole focus of fueling, no pun intended, your whole focus of hydrating within the fueling category is, it's just to speed the water and electrolytes into your cells, give your cells the happy electrolytes, and then get on with it. It's not about trying to cram everything into one drink with your amino acids, your protein, your sugar, your hydration, because your body doesn't work like that. You might think it works like that, and the marketing spins say, well, I've got this gel and it's got electrolytes in, and I've got this and it's got BCCAs in. Well, it doesn't. It doesn't work. Yes, marketing says it works, but there's no science to sort of say it works as for proper science. So if you can split out what you're doing, one, you'll put less effort on your gut, and your gut's an important piece to keep you going. 2, it makes it easier for you to sort of play around in terms of just focus on doing what you want to do. And what you want to do is beat your PB, beat your mate, or whatever your sort of motivation is. Get out of the house from your 2-year-old and 4-year-old, which in my case for 2 minutes to give me a breather. So yeah.
So we see a lot of these drink mixes and electrolyte mixes, and I see there's kind of 2 ends of the spectrum. There's that 0-calorie fizzy tab, and then there's the Gatorades of the world or other brands where you have sometimes upwards of 20 plus grams of carbohydrate, and athletes wonder why they don't feel well. Yeah. Why does SOS only have the amount of sugar that it has, and why do we not want, I mean, you alluded to it, but why do we not want 20 plus grams of carbohydrate in with our hydration?
Well, you want 20 plus grams of sugar for your fueling. So yeah. Definitely. So just to sort of clarify. But the other piece of the coin is that from a hydration perspective, sugar follows salt, salt follows sugar, water follows salt. If you have that in the correct molecular balance, it'll speed water and electrolytes into your cells. So sodium glucose transport system, or cellular transport technology, or whatever any of the ORSs have sort of spun around. The key goal is that if you can keep that molecular balance, but keep the sugar lower, your body doesn't need the sugar for hydration. Well, it does. So that comes back to the anti-sugar sort of side. It needs the minimal amount of sugar possible, because the sugar in this case is just acting as a facilitator. It's not acting as fuel. So even the ORSs with 11 to 15 grams, there's a better way to do it through how we've worked the science of an SOS to keep the molecular balance, but lower the sugar, but add no artificial junk. And then you've got on the far end of the spectrum, like salt tablets, like fizzy tablets, like no sugar sodium, that needs sugar. Salt always follows sugar. Salt needs to find some sugar. If you just take a salt something, it needs to find sugar some way down its gut. So yes, it will absorb, and you have the osmolarity of absorbing because of the salt piece. But it needs to find its little way to the end to get itself in. So it has to pick up sugar along the way.
Exactly. Thank you very much. I've preached that many a time. So as triathletes, how would you go about hydrating your day? I know how I do it. If they have, let's say, a swim in the morning and then a, longer bike in the evening or afternoon, plus their regular work day, how would you recommend that they add SOS in?
Yeah. So, yeah, of course. Good question. So first off, start your day hydrated. So I wake up in the morning, I have a pint of water or 16 fluid ounces of water, and then I'll have breakfast, I'll let my stomach, and then I'll have a bottle of SOS, so 16 fluid ounces or a pint of SOS. That really starts my day. I've had my sugar and I've kept it separate by about 10, 15 minutes. It's important that you keep your fueling and your hydration separate from an SOS perspective by about 15 minutes. So you let the hydration work its magic, you let the fuel work its magic, and you don't mix the two to sort of cause chaos. And then depending on where I am or here, I'll probably have a bottle, another SOS during the day just to sort of keep me going because it's so warm. And then, like all of you, I'll go out for a run, a bike, or a swim, or whatever, or both, a couple of times, well, every day bar one. So then, whatever event it starts with, I always start with an SOS, a couple of sticks in a bottle, and then about 30 minutes before I start. And I know then that I'm not going to cramp up if it's a 30-minute run and it's so hot here, and I'm not teaching to the converted. I know I can get out and I don't have to take any hydration with me, but I know I've got my sodium levels, other electrolyte levels, my magnesium, my zinc, my water, everything is topped up to start. And if I'm doing a bike, for every hour and a half of biking, I'll have a bottle of SOS, and I'll rotate the drinking of the SOS with my fuel. So as I mentioned, I take Cliff Shots gels. I'll take my Cliff Shot gels, and I won't have a Cliff Shot gel for the first 40 minutes because my carbs is going to take me for an hour in my own head. Elizabeth can tell me if I'm wrong. But after that, then I'll start every 20-ish minutes, 20, 30 minutes, depending on the intensity, I'll start smashing a gel down my throat. But I will always leave that 10 minutes either side. So I basically rotate SOS, fuel, and I have sometimes, if it's a longer ride, I also just have water. So sometimes your body doesn't want all that extra sodium. So if it's a colder day and I'm not royally sweating it out, in my bike, I'll have one bottle of SOS and one bottle of water, and one in reserve. Perfect.
I approve.
Thank you.
What about people that say either they've had their sweat tested or they say, I'm a salty sweater. Because the SOS has 330
in one stick, so it's 660. You put 2 sticks in a packet, so 660 in a bottle.
Is that enough for the salty sweater? Can they manipulate it if they know? What do you recommend?
I wouldn't play with as in putting 2 or 3 of these in 8 fluid ounces. Because it affects the balance of the water, the sugar, the sodium, and all that fun stuff. So each little stick is 8 fluid ounces. So in a sports bottle, in your cycle bottle, 2 or 3 sticks. I tend to put 2 sticks in a bottle, however it goes. And if it's a really, really heavy day, I'll mix it up to the full 3. So salty sweaters, you just need to, unfortunately, drink more with electrolytes. Less salty sweaters, you still need your electrolytes, but you might not need as many of them.
Great. I guess, what are some other, I don't know, as we've been using for years, tips and tricks, if you will?
Good for a hangover, to celebrate post-race. I didn't say that. We also, if you've got kids, we've got a kids version. So that's with Paw Patrol, and it's a kids-specific hydration formula. So that's great for the little ones to chuck in their lunch boxes. The other tips are, if you're traveling, flying dehydrates. So I always take a couple of sticks afterwards just to sort of get me going. Scott, I saw you got your hand up. Hello, good sir.
Hi, how are you?
All right,
So,
thanks.
I'm not going to get too caught up in the science because I don't know enough about it. And I have been salt tested, sweat tested, and I'm a really high,
Yep.
15 plus. But also in racing Ironman, some of it, like I want to separate the two. Like all intents, like, okay, the science says do it. We know it's better for the gut. Logistically, pulling it off on the bike, so let's say I was going to go SOS and cliff, or I have my bars that I use, physically on the bike, carrying it with me and accomplishing the goal is where things start to break down for me over time, which is why I inevitably went with an infinite nutrition where I pile it all in. I know I'm going to get a gut issue, but I'm willing to risk it because I'm like, I've just got to get it in.
What about a crazy suggestion? So obviously you prefer the liquid rather than reaching around the back of the tri bar and grabbing the gels. You could have one bottle with fuel pre-mixed, right, and one bottle with hydration pre-mixed, and then that eases life. Yes, you still have to come out of your aero because you've got one in your aero, which is your hydration, and the other one, but there is an opportunity to play that. The gels are obviously super easy to sort of play with, but 100% see your point. I've never done a full, I've obviously only done a half, but I've cycled the full distances, and I definitely understand that you're sat there wanting to be in this aero, and you doing this and rocking around screws you up.
Yeah, and actually I do that. So the bottle in the front, in the bars with the straws, the fuel, and the bottle in the back is the hydration. And when I pick up a third bottle, because there's space for three, one, like to your point, will be just pure water when I just want to cleanse the system. But I'm gonna kill both bottles in an hour, let's say.
Yep.
Now I'm at Ironman's whim. Unless I carry packets that I now have to open, so now this is the logistics. 70.3, no problem. The race is over for the gut. So I know we're kind of getting off track, but
there is a suggestion that you can play with, and there's two that I'll float with. The first one doesn't work perfectly, but will work once you get into transition and for afterwards, is that we design the sticks with triathletes in mind, in the fact that you can rip the stick off and pour it into your mouth and then chase it with water. It's not beautiful and it doesn't taste particularly beautiful, but it's at that stage. And again, here in Arizona, yes, I've not done a full, but the heat is just nuts. At that stage, I can do it. And especially on the run, where you're literally going, oh, fuck, I don't want another Coke or whatever that Ironman's given you. I don't have to carry a water bottle because I've got that. I smash it before I get to the aid station and then chase it with water. I can do that on the bike. The other one that I've seen a load of the Ironmen and women do is they put these into syringes. As in, they don't inject them, clearly. They put them into syringes, so they put some water in it, and therefore it becomes a concentrated water solution. And then they put a couple of the syringes in their pockets, and therefore they just inject the solution into their mouth and chase it with water. And I know 3 or 4 of them that do that, where it's a bit more of a thought, but that seems to sort of work for them.
Yeah, I mean, if you can do the packet, I'd do that. That's a good answer. Thank you. And then because I'm a 1500, so you don't recommend 3 packets in the bottle.
Well, you can, 3 packets in the bottle is fine, because if it's, as long as it's a 750 ml bottle, you've got the sort of the same thing. So you'll get what you need. I tend to just put 2. I mean, the optimal solution is 1 stick per 8 fluid ounce.
Yeah.
Scott, 2 things I can testify. I have done both the dry powder in my mouth. I do that almost exclusively for the runs because I don't like to carry a bottle, and the syringes, and both work very well. As well as balancing I found that with myself and a lot of my athletes, you're used to other solutions that don't hydrate you as well. And so even though you might not be getting 1500 sodium at 1000 sodium, your body's going to feel so much better because it is properly hydrated. Like the other hydration solutions aren't really hydrating as well. and aren't fully rehydrating. So I feel better. So it's almost like your body will feel better even with slightly less because of the formula and the design.
And some of that also is if you get to the start line, as much as no one wants, well, you're in a wetsuit most of the time. So if you have a pee in your wetsuit, oh, well, never mind. But most of the time you want to get to the start line. If you can start hydrated, so take a couple of sticks before you go to bed, take a couple of sticks when you wake up, that delays the use of that first bottle by a bit. So it carries a little bit further into your pain cave.
Yep. And I'll have one. I know transition is fast, but I'll have a bottle and try to slam as much as I can too after the swim before getting on the bike. And then I can delay, like you said, delay drinking as well.
Yeah. And I've probably been guilty of showing up dehydrated, and I'm prepared, obviously in an Ironman, to be in a deficit at some point. And that's part of the plan, is try to perform as best you can. The deficit is just minimizing.
Exactly.
And yeah. All right. Thank you.
No.
It's a great question. I think practical for all of us. So I know that James, we don't have that much more of his time. Are there any other questions? We can talk about hydration, for the remainder of the time, but any specific questions about SOS for James? I want to open it up to you guys. If not, I have more. So the formulation for kids, is this just for triathletes or is it just for athletes? I know I'm setting this up. I know the answer to this question. Can I give it to my dad for golfing? Can I give it to my nieces and nephews for their soccer game? Is it an all-encompassing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's all encompassing to an extent, but we've changed the formula for specific things because one hydration strategy doesn't fit all. So the kids, as an example, is a serving size of 12 fluid ounces. The kids bottle, we've added vitamins A and C, which are specific qualities for kids. We've got a ready to drink, which is your perfect daily, just go and grab it. And I hate sounding like sort of a used car salesman, but this has got added vitamin C, D, B6, B12, folic acid, magnesium, and zinc. And then we've got the powder, let's call it like a performance set, where you would use it for the sport and pre and post. And that's got added magnesium and zinc as well. So it's got 40 milligrams of magnesium per 8 fluid ounces, and it's got 3 milligrams of zinc, which is 27% of your recommended daily amount in a serving. So we just wanted to make it simple. And we try to keep as much gunk out of it as possible to reduce GI distress. But also, so it's there just to be downed and finished and done, and you can get on with your day. And if you want a double vodka or tequila slam or something, well, have that. So yeah, from my 105-year-old grandmother, bless her cotton socks, may she rest in peace, to my 2-year-old daughter, to my 2-year-old daughter when she was 6 months old, who had norovirus. It can be used for anyone. The thing is, hydration is there to help you through your day. It's not the magic thing. You need fuel. You need good nutrition, you need exercise, and you need various protein and so on and so forth. This is just one little piece of that jigsaw puzzle. And look, if you like other brands and you use other brands, and I don't care, as long as you hydrate. I would obviously prefer you, and I know that our science is better because I can prove it. But it's up to you. The thing I want to take away, you guys and girls to take away, is hydration is something that is done by itself, exclusively by itself, and that will make you perform so much better, be it perform from a triathlon perspective or just feel cognitively awake.
Perfect. On that note, where can we find, obviously, the website, where can we find SOS?
Sending out an SOS. Every single CVS. We have the powder in all the beverage aisles. So if you go and find a Crystal Light in every single CVS, we're in also the sports nutrition aisle of half of the CVS stores, and then the ready to drink is sold in the health hubs, and then the kids is in every single Walmart. We're also in regionally in Whole Foods, Kroger, so things like NorCal, Texas, Florida, and then Amazon and soshydration.com.
Perfect. Thank you for your time today, sir. This is always nice to see you.
And look, I appreciate all of you listening in. Thank you.
You have a podcast
I do have a podcast. It's called The Most Hydrated Podcast. We don't just talk about hydration, although it's mostly hydrated, but I talk to the wonderful people like Elizabeth. It's 10 questions in 10 minutes. And me as a podcaster, I wanted things sort of done quickly, and I love chatting. So it's a super way just to learn from other people like Elizabeth, like Dr. Rob Bell, who's a brain scientist, Kevin Harrington, one of the original Sharks, my two little daughters, which is quite an adventure, Dr. Blanca, so you get the scientific angle rather than just some Brit on the end of the phone, and a couple of other people.
And it's the perfect, I use that as my, okay, you're going to sit down and foam roll for 10 minutes, or you're going to sit down and drink your, like I set that as my benchmark. And as you said, it's perfect in a commute. That 10-minute format is really excellent. So, and it's entertaining. You do a good show, sir.
Thank you. Lovely to see you all. Thanks a lot, Elizabeth. Cheerio. Have a happy hydrated day. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys, we still have time if you have any hydration, fueling questions. Anything else you want to cover while you've got, we can talk St. George. Who do we think is going to take it? Is Lionel Sanders going to take it?
I do have a question, if you don't mind. This is Bashar, Elizabeth. So the thing is, this is where I'm confused. Like, I guess I've been brought up to think sodium is bad because of blood pressure, right? And then I started doing triathlon. Obviously, you need sodium, and I do take it, but I kind of avoid sodium if I'm not exercising. And now I hear, pre-training take sodium, during take sodium, post take sodium. Like, when do you know you've had too much, and what is the right, like, how do you gauge that?
Yeah, great.
That's where I struggle.
Great question. Let's preface this with, if you have blood pressure issues or a history of, family medical history of blood pressure, you absolutely want to be mindful of the sodium that you're consuming. I think so. We set that category aside. And I think for those athletes, there's, you want to be more on the minimum threshold side of sodium consumption. Most of us that don't have that pre-existing medical history or condition, we are losing enough sodium through the training that we're doing. Our bodies utilize sodium throughout the day. I mean, we're constantly, whether we realize it or not, respiration, breathing, we're simply, getting rid of the fluid in our body, movements, training throughout the day, bowel movements, all of these things, digestion, all of these processes are using the fluid that our body has on store. And this is where sodium comes in to help maintain that electrolyte balance. And between adding some salt to the food or the food that you cook, and then the salt that you're consuming in your beverages, we, as athletes, triathletes especially, we don't need to be as concerned with sodium intake. Should you be doing, 4,000, 6,000 milligrams a day, even if you're training, even if you had a 4-hour session, potentially not, but we don't need to be as worried. And I find even a bottle with 1 pack of SOS throughout the day, and 1 pack, before training, and then whatever bottles I have during training. Sometimes I'll even do 1 before bed. Always perfectly balanced. It's almost what my body needs. And that's where blood work comes in. So you can look at your labs and see what are your sodium levels, potassium levels, magnesium, how's your body handling that hydration. But for the most part, especially as it gets warmer, as your training gets longer, when that intensity goes up, hydrating before and during is very important. And you don't need to be as concerned. And, I'm working on an article right now about sweat testing. As Scott knows, it's valuable to know your sodium loss rate, because that then gives you a better idea at just how much sodium you need to be taking in during those training sessions. That answer it a little bit. You're okay.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. All right, I guess SOS obviously is my electrolyte beverage, but James made the point, hydration for athletes is crucially important. It's also, I can say, gosh, I've been using SOS, and I'm not a big drinker, but the few times that I do, I have not had a hangover in, I don't know, 10 years, however long I've been using SOS. It's my mandatory before I, like, you know, you go out for the night, I have a bottle already, I make it up before and put it in the fridge before I leave, so that before I go to bed that night or early that morning, depending, it has 2 packs of SOS in it. It is, you know, you might not feel great, but you definitely don't feel hungover the next day. So I can say, and travel, it's the same way. I haven't been dehydrated in travel. And it really is something that I encourage, you know, for athletes that are doing strength training, for golf, any sport. It's really, it goes, staying hydrated is crucially important, not just for sports performance, but as James said, to feel happy, to perform at work, to sleep well. All of those components really make a difference. All right. Anything not related to hydration? We can open it up. No, we're good. Okay.
I can ask another nutrition question if you don't mind.
Sure.
So one thing I've done before joining Fuel In, and I guess I'm still doing, but I've noticed now that I'm, you know, tracking things, is my fat intake because of nuts. I usually have like about 1/4 cup of nuts a day. And since I'm tracking it now, I'm like, wow, I always go over. Is this like a bad sign, or is it because, you know, I've always been thought like nuts are good for you. And it's usually like, you know, almonds, you know, cashews, that pecans. So should I like start reducing, or is it okay just to every day I'm kind of in the red on the fats, just, you know, about 19, 20 grams?
Nuts are incredibly good for us. If you're really only having like 1/4 cup, 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup a day, that's really not that much. And I think the minerals that you get from nuts, the vitamin E, the magnesium, omega-3s, and things like walnuts, I would say it would be worth it, especially if, and going over, are you trying to, like, is body composition a focus? Are we really trying to, are you seeing that overage? Like, have you been gaining weight? Then maybe we should look at other places in your diet where we might be able to cut some of the fat. Or, you know, I would say keep the nuts as long as your weight isn't a problem, and as long as you know, there aren't other issues in your diet that we would need.
I feel great. Like, I think, you
Yeah,
know, I think I've actually been under fueling, which is kind of, I was shocked to find that out. I wasn't eating enough. So
it's a wonderful feeling, isn't it? When you go, wow, I get to eat so much more. And especially for men. So pistachios for heart health. And then for men, particularly Brazil nuts, 2 of those Brazil nuts a day have enough selenium. They meet your daily requirement for selenium, and that's been shown to help against prostate cancer. So if it were me and I was going, oh, I had 20 more grams of fat, but I got my daily selenium in and I got some heart healthy pistachios in, well worth the trade-off. Again, if body composition was starting to be an issue, we would probably talk about it. But I don't think, especially as active as you are, I don't think you need to. I've seen your training and your diet. You're fine. You're doing good. Scott, did you have a question?
Yeah, so it's more of a topic in general, but you know, eating that little bit of food before a morning workout, regardless of what the workout may be, and regardless of the fueling during and post, you know, that whole going in fasted on some workouts. And I'm one of those people who struggle to keep weight on. So I'm trying to eat something, even though it's 5:30 in the morning, which I hate to do. But how terrible is it? I'm hearing more and more that it is bad, even though I trained for a long time, fasted, and then I would eat after. And I know that's probably a much grander conversation because there's a lot of variables there, but just kind of the
Yeah.
regardless of workout?
I would say the interest around fasted training is really overhyped.
Agreed.
If you're struggling in the morning to eat something before you train, then don't eat something before you, again, if you're starting the morning in a, it happens to be a very high intensity session, like I think especially before a swim, especially if you're a faster swimmer, it's a good idea to get something in, because you're not going to be taking in fuel most likely during, unless you have it in your bottle or you stop to have a chew or something. So I would say looking for things there that would be something to help start your session. But also, if it's a bike, you can start eating when you get on the bike, and you will know if your performance is suffering in those sessions. I think I wouldn't recommend necessarily skipping fueling before, but I'm not going to force you to do it if it doesn't work for you. So I find I'm not, I can't eat a lot before I train, but I'll have 2 Fig Newtons before a swim or before I go out for a run. And it's something, and it's enough to give my body some fuel before starting that session. And then I will fuel accordingly. I can do a banana. It's finding something that works for you for those sessions. And then I think if you have a hard time keeping weight off, that's really where that during and post fueling is what's going to be important.
Yeah, and that's kind of my experience. It's not, I'm the one who has a hard time keeping weight on, right? I have to eat a ton of food, but it's not that I'm out of energy. I've just had, a good friend of mine that's a physician here is like, it messes with your cortisol, for me to go into these sessions basically fasted. And so I'm trying to get back on the bananas and nut butter, just half of it. I hate bananas, but they work. So yeah, all right. I try not to do too much fasted, but at 5:30, I'm just not hungry. I just don't want to eat.
Have some, like, I don't know, a dried apricot or a dried fig or plum with a little nut butter if you hate bananas. I mean,
I hate bananas.
Then my gosh, like let's find you an alternative. Life is too short to eat a banana every morning if you hate bananas.
No.
I mean, you could even do something. Some of my athletes will do applesauce, or any of the other, containers of baby food are cheap and pretty easy to digest because they are already mashed up. I have
been known to eat baby food. Yes, I've been known to do that.
Yeah, take a couple spoonfuls of that, a couple spoonfuls of applesauce, throw some extra cinnamon on there. Or, if you don't like super sweet stuff, you can throw a little like chili powder on there with the apples. It gives it kind of a nice kick.
Yeah. Okay, that's perfect. That's helpful because I don't really have problems eating during or after. It's always it's that early morning eating.
Yeah. And I would say make it a priority when you have those really important sessions.
Okay.
Because we want to help you. I mean, race day, obviously on race day, you want to have breakfast before your race.
Yeah. And I always do for race day. Race day. And
that's where we want to make sure you're practicing at least something so we can get that down. But the rest of the time, then, do what works. Do the best that you can.
Thanks.
Don't stress. And for heaven's sakes, don't eat any more bananas.
Oh my God. That was why my favorite part of the off season is no more bananas.
Yeah, that is not a way to live. Good question, though. Good question. All right.